Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to another episode of The Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys taking some time and visiting with me on the channel today. Always grateful for that. And guys, today we're going to be giving tips and advice on fishing a spybait. I don't know if you guys have fished these things before or have heard about them, but it's a really good lure this time of year in the early pre-spawn, so I'm going to give you guys some good juice on that in today's video. Also guys, I just wanted to let you know that we've set up a Patreon account on the channels here, actually in all three of my channels, and it's a really good way if you want to support the channel and give something back. It's a really good way to do it is by using that Patreon link. It's in the link in my description there in every video, so if you guys are wanting to be part of that, you can check that out there. So much appreciated. Okay guys, now if you don't know what this is a spybait, and it looks like a topwater prop bait. I mean, at first glance, it's got two propellers on the end of it there that spin like this, and it looks like one of those, baits that you work on top, but this thing sinks under the water. And when you reel it through the water column, what it sort of does, it's sort of got a little bit of a wiggle like that, and those propellers spin while the bait is wiggling like that. And it's a really, really subtle lure. And there's been actually quite a few tournaments won on this. When these things came out for the first time, like 10 or 12 years ago, it was a big deal, maybe 15, it was a big deal. And you heard a lot of people using these to win tournaments, especially like we're on, lakes that have a lot of smallmouth in it. But then it sort of like went by the wayside a little bit. You didn't hear a lot of people talking about it. One of the reasons, it's a really, really situationally specific lure. And that's what I want to get in today as far as the situation this thing works in and how to fish it a little bit. Now, first of all, in order for the spybait to work good, also guys, I'll put the spybait link in my description for the Tackle Warehouse links. I'll put some good spybaits in there. If you guys want to try one, you can use my Tackle Warehouse link and get one there. But the first thing that you have to have is you have to have a lake where the fish are suspended at a little bit, because a spybait is a suspended fish lure for the most part. Not to say that it won't pull fish up off the bottom, because it will, but in general, it's for those conditions where there are some fish suspending at different water column depths out there. So given that, you're sort of relegated to certain times of the year. The best time for a spybait, in my opinion, are sort of like the months between, say, November and maybe late March. That's when it's probably at its best. It works really good in cold water, and you need to have some clean water with it. Doesn't have to be crystal clear, but you need to have some clean water with it. So from my experience, and most of my spybait fishing has been here in the Ozarks, like at Bull Shoals Lake and Table Rock and that type of stuff, Beaver Lake in Arkansas, you need to have at least 4 foot of visibility. So 4 foot of visibility and greater is the best situation. Now I have caught a few fish in a little bit more off-colored water, like 3.5 foot, but for the most part, I sort of prefer that 4 to 6 foot visibility range. That's the number one thing. Next thing, you have to have the right type of water temperatures. The water temperatures where this thing works best is when the water is in the 40s and the 50s, with the exception of northern smallmouth. If you guys are fishing northern smallmouth lakes where they're predominant smallmouths, like the Great Lakes, Lake St. Clair, Lake Champlain, all that type of stuff, it will work in the summertime there. Most of the time in the summer, the water temperatures in those areas are in the 60s, maybe low 70s, but that's sort of an outlier a little bit. What I want to talk about today is the spybait for sort of man-made impoundments where you have a mixed species, and that is where it works the best. If you guys have a lake that has some mix of largemouth, spotted bass, and smallmouth, that is where the spybait will excel in those conditions out there. A prime example, let me give you guys some perfect examples of where spybait would work good. It would be a lake like Lake Lanier in Georgia, Lake Cumberland in Kentucky, Douglas Lake in Tennessee, Lake, what's the name of that one? Yeah, Lake Cherokee would work good in Kentucky or Tennessee. All the Ozark lakes in California, all the lakes like Lake Shasta, Lake Oroville, those type of areas where you have a mixed species and clear water. That's when it's going to be these things where they're going to be the best. Now, there's a couple different things with the spybait. There's a couple different sizes here, and this is the size that I prefer myself here. I'm not even sure the model of this one here. I think it's a Duo Realis one. But what you need to have is you've got to fish these areas on places where the fish can come up on the bait a little bit. And normally, most of the time when I'm fishing a spybait, it is on main lake or secondary points, sometime in the middle of the ditches. So if you guys are fishing, say for example, Lake Hartwell in South Carolina, where the fish get in the ditches there, and what I mean by a ditch, I mean the middle of a cove towards about halfway back in the cove to all the way back in, get in the middle of those coves, throw it out there, count it down and start reeling it in. Or the same on main lake secondary points. Get out off the end of those main lake and secondary points in like 20 to 40 foot of water. Cast the spy bait out there. It's gonna sink at different rates out there, but it's gonna sink at just about like this. So count it down to the depth that you sort of guess the fish are at. And the way that you know that is if you graph around those points with like your 2D sonar, try to take note of like where the level of the bait fish, the predominant levels that you see the bait fish or any type of fish activity. So say you're out there idling around in 25 or 30 foot of water and you're seeing fish down 10 or 15 feet, count the bait down to a count of 10 or 15, and then just keep your rod tip high. Light line, guys, 4 to 6 pound test line. I usually use 4 pound test, Seaguard and Vizex. You don't want to ever go above 6 pound test. Cast it out there, keep your rod tip high, count it down to where you're going to be, and just start slow reeling it like that. You don't have to put any action on the bait, just slow reel it. It's one of the few lures out there where I don't twitch it or anything. I'm just letting those propellers spin and do all the work for themselves there. And like I said, when you reel it through the water, especially if you have light line on it, you're gonna have that subtle side to side, movement like that, almost like a mag draft swim bait. But anyway, guys, it's a really good lure. I'll tell you one way that you know it's working. If you're catching some fish on a jerk bait, or if you're catching some fish maybe on a little bitty swim bait and the fish are suspended in cold water, try the Spybait. Spybait is going to catch them. And another condition that's going to work better is if you have some low light conditions. So if you're out there on a day where it's cloudy, maybe a little bit of rain or some wind, the Spybait works a little bit better under those cloudy, windy conditions other than when it's just bright and slick out. So anyway, guys, I'll put the links in the description here if you guys want to pick up a couple. It's just a good little limit getter at times. Doesn't get fished a lot, and might add up to a few more fish for you guys. So we'll talk later.